Greetings and good evening, one and all. I am DRWolf, and I just got back from watching the newest animated film from Disney, Moana. And yeah, I think there's actually a lot of good things to talk about. A couple of things that kind of work, but for the most part, I do think it's a very strong film. And for starters, the two guys who directed this, Ron Clements and John Musker, they have a long, long list of history with Disney. They are credited as both directors and part of the writing staff on movies like The Great Mouse Detective, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog. These guys know what they're doing. And this newest film, even though it's not traditionally 2D animated like all those other films, they've really shown that they still know what they're doing. The character of Moana, for starters, she's actually a good deal stronger than a lot of the heroines I've seen in Disney films over the years. And I'm not talking just she's a more entertaining character, even though in many ways she is. I think she's actually a little more developed than a lot of the other Disney heroines over the years. You really get to feel for who she is and who she's trying to be and the struggle she's going through, particularly the conflicts that they address and how they discuss them with other characters. I think they are taking a bit more of a grown-up approach than they have with some previous films I've seen by Disney, and that definitely gives a few more points in their favor. And then you have the character of Maui. He's actually a lot of fun. I mean, I wouldn't have really thought that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, pro wrestler, could really come into his own being a voice actor, but yeah, you watching this film, you kind of forget that you're watching Dwayne voice this character. You're just watching Maui, and you're having fun with him. He's a little snarky, he's really full of himself, and yeah, they have a lot of fun with the animation on him, particularly with the tattoos, because a lot of the tattoos they come to life and are actually having a personality of their own while Maui is trying to say, "Hey, stop that." Oh, hey, yeah, I know what you mean. It's interesting how they created a character out of tattoos. Doesn't say anything, it's all about how he looks. So, yeah. And speaking of the animation, holy cow. I don't know how many times I've gone to Disney films in the past several years and just get blown away on what they can do with their animation. It's like every film they're taking it a step further and a step further. In this case, you'd swear that you were looking at an actual ocean. You have to keep reminding yourself this is all animated on a computer, but it looks so real. Holy cow, the way the characters interact with the water, the way the water interacts with the sand around it. It's just mind-boggling how far computer animation has come over even just the past few years. So, yeah, big points in the favor of this film. The animation is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous to look at, and I imagine a lot more people are going to want to go on a vacation in the Pacific Islands after they watch this film. I know that I'm a little more tempted to go visit some islands in the South Pacific one of these years. I do believe there are certain parts of the film, I will refrain from getting into spoilers, but certain parts of the film which kind of drag for a little while. Just they maybe could have picked up the story a little bit quicker in some areas, but as the film goes on, there's actually a couple of scenes where it feels like things are moving a little too quickly. Like, you're waiting for something to happen, and occasionally you'll get a good laugh out of the characters interacting with each other, but you start thinking, okay, when are they going to start moving along with the plot? And much later on, when they actually are trying to do a lot of things all at once, you start thinking, well, this is actually now happening kind of quick. I think you need to slow down a bit. So Admittedly, I think there are a few pacing issues, not with the whole film, just with certain parts of the film. I think it's got a bit of a slow start to get going, but once Maui drops in, the film definitely gets a lot more fun, and the interactions between Moana and Maui are definitely entertaining. And there's actually a couple of scenes where you start to really feel for the characters. Not every scene. I still think that, particularly with a couple of the conflicts, yeah, you can kind of see it coming from a long ways off, and yeah, kind of makes you want, okay, let's get this over with so we can move on to something interesting. But that's not always the case. Near the end, there is one twist which actually did surprise me, and in a good way. And I think it actually does work in the film's favor because it's building upon what's going on with Moana herself. So, yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that is something that I do think the film did pretty well, is wrapping everything up right at the end. All in all, though, I don't think it's the strongest entry, at least animated entry, that Disney has put out this year. I still believe that of everything for 2016 that Disney has done, animated-wise, Zootopia is definitely the strongest thus far. I had more laughs with Zootopia, I cared a little more for the characters with Zootopia, and when I left the theater the first time I watched it, I really got my mind working on, wow, that's actually really fascinating how they pulled that all together. I do believe that Moana has some of these elements that are done pretty darn well. Just not as well as Zootopia. I do believe that I will go back and watch Zootopia more often than I would go back to watch Moana. But even with Moana, I still believe it is absolutely worth the watch in the theater because that animation, again, it's fantastic. It blows your mind on how real everything is. I know that I'm going to keep saying that every time I watch a Disney film. It was only a few weeks ago I was watching Doctor Strange and the visual effects were blowing my mind. Ah, well. It's points in their favor to see that Disney is doing so well animation-wise and even live-action-wise, given the Marvel and Star Wars. And I was even impressed with Jungle Book earlier this year, too. So, yeah, I have yet to see them do anything that really drags me down, at least in the past year or two. So, yeah, without giving spoilers away, I do believe that the conflict Moana goes through is actually better written than a lot of the other conflicts of Disney heroines in the past. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I do believe she is a stronger, more well-developed character. And yeah, you actually do enjoy spending time with her. So, I'd fully recommend that you guys give it a watch. Come back, leave your thoughts in the comments below, particularly with the conflict that Moana was going through. I want to hear what each of you would think on how it affected you personally, and whether you think it's as strong as I believe it is. Other than that, I'm glad to see that Disney is doing so well with their films, and as per usual, I am DRWolf, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing what Disney comes up with next. Cheers!